The muscle car is a dying breed in this day and age. However, there are still some options that you can buy today, and one of them is right beside me. Welcome everybody to the 2024 Ford Mustang. It has been revised for 2024. As you can see, it has a slightly different look and it's got a slightly different interior as well compared to the previous Mustang that I reviewed. Let's explore this supremely cool muscle car. So, the updated Mustang. The chassis code has also been updated, so now this is called the S650 generation of the Mustang, and they have brought out lots of cool changes. So this is the base stock GT V8 version of the Mustang. There is also an Ecoboost version, but that's also available with a convertible, a manual and an automatic. Similar for the GT. This still has the 5-liter naturally aspirated Coyote V8, produces 480 horsepower, is only rear-wheel drive. The car we have today is the manual. The car I drove last year was the 8-speed automatic, so it has been a different experience, but an experience for the better, but more on that later. But yeah, coming to the looks of the revised Mustang, you can see the looks is definitely changed. The headlights are much more sleeker. It's got nicer, cooler LED DRLs embedded into it. You have an all-new grille, blacked out, and you do have functional blacked out hood vents as well, which is now standard on the Mustang. You do have also slightly a bit of a lip on the bottom of the bumper, and again the bumper design is slightly different, but it is noticeable. Like if you have the previous generation and this generation, you will be able to tell that this is the much more modern, updated one. When you come to the side, the changes aren't as prominent. The silhouette, the coupe-like style is still very much prominent and unmistakably a Mustang, which is never a problem because I feel like it's an iconic design and you just know it when you see one from far that this is just nothing else but a Mustang. Since this is the GT, you do have the 5-liter badging on the fenders and you do have these wheels as well. I'm not a big fan of these wheels because they do tend to give it a bit more of a basic look. There are other wheel options that you can spec on this car which does enhance the appeal way more, but still again for a simple basic spec it does work, just not to my taste. In fact, these wheels maybe with silver would have worked really well with this paint. Speaking of this paint, I also really like it. I'm a sucker for bright paint and I really like this yellow paint, especially in the sun as the car is parked right now. It really pops and it's mostly the brightest car in the whole parking lot. Wherever I've taken this car, this really shines and people really like to give this a second look or even a third look. When you come to the rear, you'll notice that the taillights have slightly been revised. They're now LED units and they have a matrix sequence inside whenever you want to indicate, so that looks pretty cool. It is a bit more smaller and sometimes it looks a bit too small when you look at the car from too far behind. But yeah, that's been the theme for the updated Mustang. You know, they've just minimalized the design elements, just toned it down a little bit, but it looks just as aggressive as the previous generation. When you come on the inside is where the major changes have been. So the previous Mustang had a bit of an old school interior. With this new S650 generation, they have upped the ambience by several folds. They have basically replaced all the analog touches with new screens. So you have a new 10-inch screen for the speedometer console, which you can also customize. So you do have the regular dials that you have with the car, but Ford has also included lots of little touches where you can use dials from the retro Ford. So you do have the options of the older SVT Cobra Mustang, the Fox body generation, or even the original 60s classic Mustang, which is definitely a gimmick, but a gimmick that I really like. In fact, I've been driving this car mostly with the Fox body dials because I feel like the whole vibe of this car with the rear wheel drive, the big naturally aspirated and the manual gives this very old school muscle vibe, and I have been using the Fox body dials and I've been really enjoying it. Such clean old school dials. Also, the center console now has a very big screen, so that is now having wireless CarPlay, Android Auto, and the whole touch resolution there, and the display is just top notch. The touch response is so good, especially lots of changes you can make for the custom drive mode through the screen. It's extremely responsive and it's really good. The seats are very nice. So this has the grayed out fabric seats. You can also spec it with full Napa leather, but obviously that will cost you some more money. But this spec with the grey leather, with the grey fabric seats, I think it looks really good. It's very comfortable as well. You do have some adjustments as well for the lumbar and the backrest support. You can electrically control it. But yeah, otherwise it's just nice. The driving position is very cool. The steering has been updated well, so it's a 3-spoke flat bottom steering. A bit too big for my liking, but you do have a host of buttons as well. So you can control the volume, the adaptive cruise, and you can toggle through the car's driving modes from the steering. It's not like a different knob that you find on other cars on the center console. But yeah, being a Mustang, it does have rear seats as well. I would say it's decently practical, but I would not recommend it for anyone above 5'5" or 5'6" of height for the rear seats, because then your neck would be craned in and you would be a little bit stuck. Although legroom is not an issue, but headroom is definitely a problem for the rear passengers. Being a Mustang, it also has a decently big boot as well, so you can take in lots of stuff. The opening isn't the biggest, so putting in big suitcases might be tough, but smaller bags you can put in plentiful, easily to cover your whole weekend trip of your family. I'm now behind the wheel of the all-new Mustang, so let's see how this thing drives. Let's get the numbers out of the way. This has the famed 5-liter naturally aspirated V8, produces 480 horsepower, is paired to a 6-speed manual this time, is still rear-wheel drive, and is still very, very torquey. Let's see how this muscle car drives. So slot it into first, this small little gear lever, and this actually has launch control, and you can actually set what RPM you want the launch to be at. So I think this car has been set at 3000, which is perfectly fine. So if I brake and if I floor it, yeah, it doesn't let me drive more than 3000. And I've been very gentle with the clutch. Wow. And this is a all and out full-blooded muscle car. I didn't launch it that much. Honestly, I didn't want to damage the clutch too much. I just slipped it a little bit, but it is a fast car. It is a straight line rocket. 480 horsepower is no joke, and you can do 0 to 100 in this car in roughly 5 seconds or below, which is very much sufficient for daily use. And it's the way the power is delivered to the rear wheel. It's just this sudden wave of torque, and I've put it back into 6th gear, and I'm now cruising at 70 kph, and it's completely silent, and you can cruise all day long. That's what I love about the Mustang, dual personality. You can put it into a track mode, and I have this custom mode I have set up, and everything is in track, including the exhaust. So if I dial down through the drive menu settings and I go back into normal, and it just dies down a bit, the exhaust valves close down a bit, and it's very, very calm, very, very cool. And that's what I love about this whole Mustang. Because the different drive modes, you have so many personalities you can have at the same time, and you can just cruise. It's so very, very nice. I mean, you can still hear the V8 burble. The V8 burble is still there, but it's just so nice. And you do have the rev match as well, which makes you feel like a champ. And it's just, see, as I said, I put a bit of throttle, but it's so laid back. But if I put it back into the track mode, like the custom mode I have, and the valves just open up, and if I put it down a gear, oh, look at the rev match. Oh, and if I floor it, and it revs to 7500 RPM. Wow, it's just so nice. It's so torquey. And you know what's been the biggest surprise for me? It's not the engine, because I have driven this engine before. It's this gearbox. This gearbox is so good. The throws are so slick. It's very short throw, and I like the shifter as well, so I can just quickly shift into 4th. It does require a bit of a heft, but it's so satisfying. I think it is a Tremec box. I'm not sure on that, so don't quote me on it, but it's so beautifully tuned. And yes, the gears are long because the displacement of the engine is so big, but I'm in 5th gear. But if I drop it to 3rd, oh, and it just ready to shoot me off. Wow. Especially with this, now with this active exhaust this has, I really don't feel the need to get any aftermarket exhaust setups for this Mustang. It just drives so well. The steering is a bit vague. I feel like I wish the steering had a bit more feedback. It's a little too light, and I wish it weighed up more. It's very quick. It's a very direct steering, no doubt about it, but it's a bit too light, and I wish that it weighed up a bit more, provided a bit more feedback, especially that now this car is so good at just handling all the different terrain. I wish that, you know, this steering could have been a bit more better tuned. It would have completed the driving experience of this vehicle just perfect. If I just go, yep, I have so much torque from the instant. It's so easy to get moving from stop signs. It's so nice. Wow. And it sounds so good. I just love the burble of the V8 just behind my ears at all times. And this is no pumped in noise. This is out and out pure American muscle V8 noises, and it's something I absolutely love. What can I say? The Mustang has always been a very good car, and with this S650 generation they have made some more tweaks to the suspension and just the whole feel of the car, and I feel like it really works. It drives so well. Just the steering, you can work around that, and yes, you do feel the mass of the car as well when you're braking hard, when you're cornering. Barring that, it's such a great package. Honestly, I did not expect to like the manual so much. I've just had so much fun driving this car in various situations in the city. Even in the city, just rev matching and hearing the exhaust, it puts a joy, it puts a smile on my face, and it puts a lot of smile on lots of passerbys I've seen on the road as well. They just give me a thumbs up whenever they hear the exhaust. What can I say? The Mustang is a legend, and this car just lives truly to the whole legendary status this car has. So, in conclusion then, the 2024 Ford Mustang GT manual. Honestly, I have driven the Mustang before in the previous generation, so I had lots of expectations. Lots of fine-tuning here and there, especially with the suspension and the steering. It just feels so good. It's actually a very livable sports car, if I can say. I know it's a muscle car, but considering everything else, I feel like it's a very competent sports car as well. Very few opportunities left in the market to enjoy this V8, and this at $56,000 with some options like the wheels and the active exhaust, which is non-negotiable for me. I don't think it's actually that bad value, because if you see the horsepower to ratio and the sound you get, this V8 is, I think, one of the best sounding V8s in the market. I mean, if I were in the market to buy a competent muscle car slash sports car, this might just be one of my top choices, especially with this amazing manual gearbox.